Today in the Locked On Sabres podcast, we continue on with our Sabres money and power list. Also, kind of throughout the process, a little bit of an update on the World Juniors. Yes, the World Juniors are going on right now. That's ahead on the Locked On Sabres podcast.
Your Locked On Sabres, your daily podcast on the Buffalo Sabres. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Sabres your first listen every day, free and available on all platforms. Be sure to like and subscribe us on YouTube. You can follow us on the socials at Sneaky Joe Sports, at Locked On Sabres, at JR Hanskin to check us out on our Twitter page. Thanks everybody for tuning in today's show. It'll be a continuation of our series, the Sabres money and power list, the top 30 individuals in the Sabres organization that mean the most and have the most influence over whether or not this team is going to get good and whether or not it's going to be a success. So if you missed our last episode, the 28 through 30 range, Rasmus Asplund at 28, Seth Appert at 29, and Erik Portillo at number 30. Today, 25, 26, and 27. That's coming up in just a little bit. Bit of a news update to get you going, though, on today's show. In the division, the Atlantic Division, the Boston Bruins re-signed Patrice Bergeron. Sounds like they're going to re-sign David Krejci as well. So the Bruins are going to run it back. Probably their last dance, though. It's a one-year deal for Bergeron. It's going to be a one-year deal for Krejci. The age at which Marchand is at, I think this is it for the Bruins. Very hard to imagine the Sabres leapfrogging Boston now that Bergeron and Krejci are back in the fold, but it's easy to see them leapfrogging the Bruins next year, given that the whole thing might get blown up and torn down after this coming season. So the Bruins, one more year at least, but probably only one more year that they're going to be going forward with this core and that they're going to be a contender. So that's what's going on in Boston. How about in Vegas? Former Sabres goaltender Robin Lehner, announced by the Golden Knights today, out for the season. Out for the season with hip surgery. That's nuts, right? Like 10 months from now, they know he's not going to be playing in the month of June. Now, if you're still hate watching the Golden Knights and rooting against Jack Eichel, this is good for you because Lehner has been great the last 3 years as Vegas' starting goaltender. An 89% WAR percentage, one of the best goaltenders in the league in 5-on-5 save percentage during that time span. He's been their lock solid number one, and now he's already done. So where do they turn in net? Remember, that was something that cost them down the stretch this past season, that they couldn't make the playoffs because they just couldn't get a save. And coming in, Laurent Brossoit, who's also dealing with a long-term injury, he's under contract for one more year at $2.3 million. And that's all I got. That's all I got. Logan Thompson, that's the other guy. Remember, he played for them down the stretch last season. Michael Hutchinson, who was an NHL backup like 5 years ago, they're nowhere. And they also can't really address goaltender because they're $5.7 million over the salary cap. And that's with Lehner on IR. With Lehner on IR, they're $5.7 million over the salary cap. So this is bad news for Jack Eichel and the Vegas Golden Knights if they're trying to get back into a competitive window for next season. Bad start, but hey, we're good with it. All right, let's go to our Sabres money and power lists on today's show. 25, 26, and 27. We will start, by the way, the definition for this list: the individuals who have the most influence over whether or not this team is going to get good. Number 27, Henri Jokiharju, Sabres right shot defenseman. Also really their only right shot defenseman that has any promise for the long term. Now, last year was a step back for Jokiharju, but he showed a good amount in his first couple of years in the NHL, the 38 games in Chicago, that first season, full season with the Sabres. The last 2 years, not so hot. And that includes a lot of time spent playing with Rasmus Dahlin. I think with Dahlin likely moving to the right side, it will relieve the pressure on Jokiharju to have to be this team's number one right shot defenseman. Maybe slide into the number 3 spot now that Ilya Lyubushkin is also signed and under contract for the next 2 years. Jokiharju going from 22 minutes a night to maybe 18 minutes a night, I think could be massive for him and becoming more of a steady defenseman that plays bottom 4 minutes, penalty kill, again, 18 minutes a night, and maybe with a Matthias Samuelsson on the second or third pair. Maybe you put him with Owen Power. I think a lesser role for Jokiharju is in order, but I think there's still potential there. He's still a very good passer. He has a good wherewithal in his own end. He doesn't really feel a lot of pressure when he's being forechecked. I think it's a good quality to have, and he's still only 23 years old. First round pick, talent, and for what he showed in the first 2 years, I want to feel open to Jokiharju taking another step forward. And if that happens, that could really propel the Sabres from being a great blue line to a dominant blue line. I think they have the makings of a great one just with Power, Dahlin, and to a lesser extent, Matthias Samuelsson. If Jokiharju could develop into a real nice second pair right shot defenseman for the long term, and last year he was not playing at that level. If he could do that going forward, then I think the Sabres we could be talking about a dominant blue line someday. But I think Jokiharju plays a key part in that happening. So Henri Jokiharju comes in on the list at number 27. 25 and 26 and our Sabres Money and Power list is coming up here on the Locked On Sabres podcast. We are sponsored by BetOnline, betonline.net. It is the fastest and the easiest way to check in on all your betting needs. Find all your favorite sports and events at the number one online source for odds, lines, and games. I'm loving betting the Colorado Rockies overs right now. I'm betting some baseball, Blue Jays money line, Rockies overs. That's what I've been hammering lately. It's been working. Also, St. Jude Classic, you got the FedEx Cup playoffs that are getting going. So you've got some fun golf bets that you can tackle as well. And you can find reviews and news from every league, including MLB, NFL, NBA, NHL, MMA, all of it at BetOnline. They continue to be your number one online resource for all your sports wagering information, from live in-game betting, scores, and podcasts. They've got you covered. Head to BetOnline today or use your mobile device to learn more about the action happening today. BetOnline, where the game starts. Joe DiBiase back on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Let's continue on with our Sabres Money and Power list. Henri Jokiharju at number 27. Number 26, Matt Ellis, Sabres assistant coach, who is going into his second full season as an assistant coach for the Buffalo Sabres. Third season as he was a part of the interim team that stepped up when Ralph Kruger got fired. Matt Ellis seems to be Don Granato's right-hand man on the coaching staff. Good standing in the organization. He was maybe pushed by the organization to be a part of Granato's team, so they the organization likes Ellis a lot. I think he has some pull, and his opinion carries some weight in the Sabres organization. Not even just with Don Granato, but some of the executives at the top. And again, when it comes to developing leaders in the locker room and a guy that's played at the NHL level, I think Ellis provides that. It gives you that ex-player perspective. I'm not really the Mr., finds value in the raw speech and the experience of just being in the league, but I think some of the young players would find value in that. I think the Sabres find value in that. I think Ellis is the guy that provides that. So I think Matt Ellis as an assistant coach, I think, some of the guys on the coaching staff are deserving to be on this list. I think Ellis has to be it because I think it seems like he's the right-hand man to Don Granato. So in terms of the penalty kill too, he has some weight. I don't think he has his hands all over the power play. I think that's Mike Bales, but penalty kill seemingly in charge of as well for Ellis. Some of the forwards working individually with, guys that they're trying to develop, like some of these young guys coming up like Jack Quinn and JJ Peterka. Ellis is going to be an influential figure in those guys' development. Granato will be focusing more on the big picture at times, and Ellis will really, I think, have to step up and focus more on an individual basis with some of these younger players. So Matt Ellis comes in on the list at number 26, the Sabres assistant coach. When we come back, number 25 on our Sabres money and power list, the top 30. We've got Erik Portillo at 30, Seth Appert at 29, Rasmus Asplund 28, Henri Jokiharju 27, and Matt Ellis at 26. 25 coming up just a second. We're brought to you on the Locked On Sabres podcast by Built Bar. If you haven't tried Built Bar Puffs yet, you are depriving yourself of one of life's greatest joys. And guess what? There's a new flavor. I feel like there's always a new flavor. They're always churning them out at Built Bar. Ready? Delicious, indulgent cookie dough. Oh, can't beat that. Covered in chocolate. That's right. Built has done it again. Introducing the cookie dough chunk puff. Has a light, chewy texture, real cookie dough chunks, and of course, they're 100% covered in real chocolate. Cookie dough chunk puffs. They're only 160 calories, and they have a whopping 15 grams of protein in them. Run to Built.com, snag a box for you and your family. It'll be the perfect treat, or you can find a really good hiding place or just hoard them for yourself. Like all Built bars, the new cookie dough chunk puffs, 100% covered in real chocolate. They're healthy, and they're tasty. You're going to love the new cookie dough chunk puff, whether you need a snack for your workout or a late night treat, or just to grab a quick bite. Built is the perfect protein bar, and they taste better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built bar. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15, and get 15% off your order by using the promo code LOCKED15 at Built.com. Welcome back, the Locked On Sabres podcast. Joe DiBiase. We continue to roll along here on today's show with the Money and Power Sabres list, the individuals with the most influence on the Buffalo Sabres and in the Sabres organization. Matt Ellis at number 26. How about number 25? Jiri Kulich, the Sabres' 28th overall selection in the first round of this past NHL draft. Kulich is actually playing right now. As I'm recording, the Czech Republic is playing at the World Juniors, and Kulich has scored a power play goal in the last 10 minutes. It was a rocket of a shot. He's been pretty good at the World Juniors, seemingly. A lot of creative play in terms of being the main focal point on that Czech team, carrying the puck through the zone, setting things up. You see scoring goals. Kulich, a lot of NHL draft pundits have ranked and have rated higher than Noah Ostlund, who was selected 16th overall by the Sabres. So Jiri Kulich, a first-round pick, might also be fast-tracked to the NHL. I think it's trending towards he gets to the NHL level before Noah Ostlund does. I don't think he does before Matthew Savoie, but it sounds like he could be playing at the AHL level this season. Whether he goes back to Europe, whether he goes to the juniors, or whether he goes to the AHL, doesn't seem to be known yet, but might be tracking towards he's in Rochester. And if he's in Rochester, he might only be a year away from being called up. And he also seemingly has the skill set to play a bottom six role. A Matthew Savoie, a Jack Quinn, a JJ Peterka. There's such offensive forces that you wouldn't want to call them up just to play on the fourth line. Kulich, I wonder if he's got that two-way game that could allow him to reach the NHL earlier and almost grow into the offensive part of his game, which he's got, but kind of start off as a depth guy. So Kulich maybe is going to be in the NHL as soon as next season. We'll see. Maybe the AHL as soon as this season. Center, wing, versatility to do both. More likely to play in the wing than Ostlund, for instance, but could end up being this team's third-line center for sure going forward. And if not, top six winger is his ceiling. And he's got that first-round pedigree. They're going to invest a lot of development into him. And a lot of, again, draft pundits, one had him ranked over Noah Ostlund, had him in the teens. Seemingly, he was supposed to go in the teens of this year's first round, and the Sabres maybe got a bit of a steal by getting him a little bit later on. So Jiri Kulich comes in at number 25 for his value in the organization as being a first-round pick and one of their top-rated prospects. All right, that's going to do it for us today on the Locked On Sabres podcast. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. On our next show, 22, 23, and 24 of our Sabres money and power list. More updates on the World Juniors, especially as they get closer to the meaningful games as we get to the past the group stage. Nobody are going to these games, by the way, and it seems like they're kind of becoming an afterthought. makes sense. World Juniors in August, but we'll continue to keep you updated as we progress. So thanks everybody for listening to today's show, and we'll talk to you next time on the Locked On Sabres podcast with Joe DiBiase.